April 14th, 1865. Our American Cousins is blaring through the theater as the roaring laughter of D.C. citizens shoots through a packed Ford theater like a lead ball. Actor Harry Hanks delivers the funniest line of the whole play.
Cousins of the man is a good society, eh? Well, that's okay. I know enough to turn you inside out, you damned old sock off in the man trap.
But why did he do this? Let's find out. May 10th, 1838. John Wilkes Booth was born today, into a family of 11 other siblings. His father, Junius Brutus Booth, was a famous actor from Britain who moved to America to further his career. He moved to America with Wilkes, his mother, who actually stole him from another woman.
In the book Faith and Traders, it said that she was called a whore because of her stealing Wilkes' father from another woman. Now, because of this, John Wilkes often got into a lot of fights at school, quote-unquote, often coming home with bloody noses. And his father was also a heavy drinker, oftentimes coming home absolutely plastered to beat John Wilkes senseless. So these types of abuse could have taken a toll on Booth's life and possibly pushed him into a type of person who would do what he did.
When he turned 17, he started his acting career in his hometown of Baltimore, with a role in Shakespeare's Richard III. He was outstanding and was asked to tour the country with the Shakespeare Acting Company.
His brother was not a fan of him. His brother said that John Wilkes was terrible and that he brings disgrace to the Booth name. Now, this may have been out of jealousy, but it still affected Booth mentally, possibly pushing him to a more harmful or spiteful type of person.
25, he was granted the lead role during his New York debut. He was called a veritable sensation by the New York Herald. He was asked of his natural inclination for the role. Wilkes responded with, "I'm determined to be a villain." Fun fact, prior to giving his Gettysburg Address, Lincoln actually watched a John Wilkes Booth performance at Ford Theater called The Marble Heart.
In the 1850s, Booth took a break from acting and did a considerable amount of work for the Confederate Party. He joined the Know Nothing Party, which aimed to limit immigration into the United States. And in 1859, Booth also showed support for slavery by joining the Virginia militia to aid in the kidnapping and hanging of John Brown. And Booth attended the hanging in that time.
In 1865, John Wilkes and other Southern sympathizers enacted a plan to kidnap Abraham Lincoln. The plan was to kidnap Lincoln and bring him to Richmond, Virginia. They were going to use him as a ransom for peace or release for Confederate soldiers. The plan fell short because Lincoln changed his plans and didn't show up at his original spot. Then, on April 14th, 1865, Booth was ready to execute his new plan to assassinate the president. To start the day off, Booth visited a man named David Harold, who provided him with the weapons and his escape route. Booth's other major accomplices, Lewis Powell and George Atzerodt, who were assigned with other assassinations on that same day. Powell was assigned to kill the Secretary of State, who at the time was bedridden. He injured the Secretary severely, but didn't kill him. George Atzerodt, however, wasn't as faithful. He was assigned to kill the Vice President, at the time Andrew Jackson. Atzerodt ended up calling it a day, sitting down at a bar, and drinking the night away. All of these men ended up getting executed since they were involved in the assassination of the president. But back to Booth. After visiting Harold, Booth chose his primary weapon, a .44 caliber Henry Dillinger pistol, a weapon that was very similar to Booth. It only had one shot, much like Booth's do-or-die attitude, as well as a long knife. As Booth walked up to the president's box, he slowly added pressure to the trigger, waiting for his cue. The shot sounded much like a firework. Some assumed it was part of the play, while others looked around frantically. The smoke from the gun rose into the air, illuminated red from the lights in the box. Henry Riggs Rathbone, who was an experienced military man, was the first to react, lashing out at Booth. Today, the gun used to assassinate the president sits on display at Ford Theater Museum.